All right, so we've got our player now falling. It'd be good if when we clicked, we can make the player go back up. So this should actually be relatively easy to do. So what we're going to do is make a new event. But now what I want to do is I want to have it that when we click, that something happens. Okay, so we can look at the various things here, but there's one actually that's event handlers, and that's kind of the easiest one. So we're probably going to use this for the remaining of them. I just wanted to use the animation one because it actually says to animate it horizontally or vertically, but the other ones these will basically do the things too. So we want to do the mouse click event. So when you click, right, it happens. So if you have nothing selected, it won't let you do it. So I don't want to have it that I have to click on the player. But if I have nothing selected and I hit mouse click event, hang on, it requires an object, which kind of sucks. So there's two ways to basically go about doing this. So you can either create an object on the stage that's basically over the entirety, that's on the most the highest level, like a layer above everything else, that when you click it and you just make it invisible, that it will work. Or what we could do, which is what I'm going to do instead, is, hopefully this works, is this. I'm going to move out of the way. I'm going to select the player again, okay? And we're just going to double-click mouse click event. But, and I'm going to get rid of this commented code. I really don't care that much about it. Now, right now what it does is it just says mouse clicked. So it says traced mouse click, which means that when it plays, it's actually going to give you a message saying that you clicked on it and that it worked, which that is also not useful for us. Okay, so we're gonna get rid of that. All right, so this is the code that we were after, was this part here. Okay, so right now it says player as the event listener, it's listening for a mouse click, and then it runs this function. But we need to change what this is. So the last one was falling down, and we'll just call this function, we'll call it flying up. So let's rename it flying up. Flying up. That way we know what it is. Okay, and it's going to run what's in here. All right. Now, I don't want it to be the player because I'm not going to find that very useful. Because basically, as the player's falling, we have to like click on it. We have to click on the player specifically in order for it to fly. And so, if he's falling, I'm going to have to like try and match and hit him, right? Which I mean, that could be a game mechanic in and of itself, but that might be a little bit hard. And Flappy Bird, I feel like, is kind of stupid. But what we can do is that I know what the object name is of the stage itself, and it's a very difficult thing to remember, but the name is actually stage. So it's just called stage. So if you do stage, it's going to apply to stage. So now if we click anywhere on the stage, it's going to run the thing. So nice little, and you can actually tell too. See how it turned blue? So it's like you can tell it's like a pre-made thing. Okay, so what we need to do is this, and it's actually going to be relatively easy. I'm going to tab in to make sure I'm in here, and all we're going to do is we already have it moving on the y-axis based on this, right? So meaning this is already moving it down, so we can actually just tap into what this is. If you look at it, what it's doing is it's taking the player's y position and then adding player velocity. So what we can actually do is when you click, what if we just change the player velocity to a negative number? So what we're going to do is we're going to say player velocity with a capital V, velocity is going to be equal to minus 15. So you can play around with the numbers. So that's just how much it's going to pop up. Now let's go ahead and try that real quick. So I'm going to hit Control Enter. You can hit Command Enter if you want. I hate this stupid little thing that pops up. This used to not be here, but I guess now because it's like a downloaded SDK, it's doing that, which is super lame. Yep, we get it. And there you go. So now when you click, it pops him up. Pretty cool. So that works pretty good. Now you might want to play with it. Like maybe you want to boost him up a little bit more. Maybe you want to boost up a little bit less. You just got to change that number, okay? Now, the thing is, right now, he's just, you can see, he's animation, he's just playing that falling animation. So that's the other thing I need to do is just actually adjust that, and that's going to be relatively easy. So if you look, you can see it's just player. So all I got to do is down here, I'm just going to write player dot. Now, I'm not. So if we go to timeline navigation, right, you can see click to go to frame and play, right? That's what I need to do. I need to go to frame 2 and play. Because if you remember, what we did is on that player itself, okay, get over here. On that player itself, not you, inside of this player controller here, right? Where are you at? The player MC, right? If you remember, on frame 1, it's always playing. It has this bit of code that says stop. I want to say on the player character, I want you to move to frame 2 and play. That's what we're trying to do, okay? Just so you get the idea. So, because this part here is the flapping. So when we click, it's going to play the flap animation, and then it's going to go back to falling. Unless we click again, then it'll play it again. Okay. So, I already know, but basically, if you were to double click this, the go to frame and play, but you can kind of figure it out from what the name is. That's what it is. So it's going to be player dot, and this is just a built-in function again, a built-in method, because the player is an object and it has this as part of it by default. It's just going to, because it's a movie clip, go to and play, and we want to go to frame 2 because that's the animation. That's where that animation starts, and then semicolon. Now, if we hit again Control Enter and you play it, you'll see that when you click, it will now play that animation when you clickety clack, clickety clack. So yep, we get it. Thanks, buddy. Yep. Okay. So see. There we go. So now you can see we have quite a bit of it already going, but it's not really a game right now. It's just, I mean, it's an interactive thing. It's kind of fun, I guess, maybe. I don't know. But it's not a very hard game. Not that Flappy Cone or Bird is. I guess I stole this, but you get the idea. Okay, so the next thing I need to do is more or less handle the scoring and the dying. Okay, so which one would be easier? Okay, we'll do the dying. I think that'll be a little bit easier to start with. Okay, so this one, I know earlier I said don't, like, you see how I did this one? Basically, this only runs when we click. So that's good. It's not part of this. I'm not testing for a click every frame. But the next one, I actually am going to have to do that again. The next ones, in fact, actually. So what we need to do is we need to, actually, before we even do that, I forgot. Let's close out of this. I actually need to put the objects in that we would collide in. Right now, he doesn't even have any pipes or anything to interact with. So we need to put those in there. I was just trying to get that to work. So let's go ahead and put the pipes in. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to my pipes, and we're going to go ahead and go to pipe, and I'm going to take this pipe and I'll drop it in here. And so this pipe, if you remember, just has an animation that's already inside of it that's just going to slide it across the screen, okay? So I'm going to put one in down here, and then I could just Control-C, Control-V, doesn't really matter, and duplicate it. Okay, I grabbed apparently the one I didn't want. And we'll just, you know what, let's delete that. I'm going to do it this way. I'm going to hold Alt. Make sure you're on the select tool. I'm going to hold Alt and click and hold Shift so that it keeps it in line. I want them to be right on top of each other. So this will be a low gap. I want to make sure you can get through it. So let's say that. Let's grab both of them. I'm just going to move it down a little. Okay. And then all I'm going to do is I'm going to hold Alt again and hold Shift. Actually, I don't have to hold Shift. Just hold Alt, and I'm just going to click and drag. And then this will be a high one, and we'll put it, I guess, here. I'm not sure how far out we got to go. And then I need to test it. Because this has the animation that goes across, I need to make sure it gets all the way past this, and I'm not sure if it will. So I'm just going to hit Control-Enter and see if it, I just don't want it to get over into here and then disappear. So let's see. Yep, we get it, buddy. Thanks. All right. And you can see that animation's working fantastic. And that's because I'm a big idiot. I grabbed the pipes, and I did not grab the pipe animation. So very important that if you wanted to animate, they actually grab the animation. So let's do that again. So I'm going to drag this over. Sorry, you might have even noticed that. And if you did, it means nothing. You get no bonus points. Okay, so I'm just going to hold Alt. I got the select tool. I'm going to hold Alt and Shift. I'm going to click and drag. Shift just keeps it so it's straight, and Alt, if you hold it down, will create a duplicate. So we'll go like that. Now I'm going to hold Shift and click on this. So just you can click on one, hold Shift, click the other one. So now they're both selected. I'm going to hold Alt and click and drag, and we'll just put this like here, I guess. You have enough of get. Okay, now let's try Control Enter. This is why we test things. Just constantly test. Make sure test to make sure it's working, and test to make sure there isn't bugs and things like that. And then you have to go through and check your code and all that other business. It's always good times. So I don't really care. We'll just let him fall. That goes off screen. This is the one I'm not sure about. Oh, it makes it. Okay, good. So we're good on that. So basically, our game will work. It's kind of tight. Maybe we can move this a little bit farther. All right. Hopefully it won't go off screen. Okay. So now we have these. What we need to do with these, though, is I need to, that if I'm hitting this pipe, that basically I die, that it's game over. Okay. So that's what we're going to do. So in order to test against that, I actually have to test. These need to have names that I can test against. Okay. So there is a way of making it that you can test against any of these pipes, but it's much more involved. And to keep things in a weird way simpler, what we're going to do is we are just going to name each one of these a name. Okay. So we're just going to call, it doesn't really matter what you call them, but we'll call this one pipe 01. Let's see, pipe 01, that's good. And then we'll call this one pipe 02. Try to see where I'm running with this one. Pipe 03. And pipe 04. Okay, so now we got 4 pipes, and basically we're going to test whether we hit those. And then if we hit those, what I'm going to do is I'm going to have a game over message pop up, which I currently do not have. So on the score thing, which I haven't kept score yet, but I'm just going to go ahead and put it in here. I'm going to go ahead and with a type tool at the text tool here, and we'll do Comic Sans. So see, it's already in here. I'm going to delete this just so you can see it. So I'm going to hit delete on that. So it's not there. Okay. Beware. See, it's gone now. Come on. Oh, close up. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and do Comic Sans, and we'll keep it red, I guess. Comic Sans. I don't care what text you do. Okay. And we're just going to write game over, man. It's game over. Okay. This should probably be lowercase. Over. And I'm just going to expand this so that it's fitting, and then let's just, okay. So that'll be my text. All right. Now, with that text, what I want you to do is, you know what? Hang on a second. So I want to do this too. So make sure after this, I'm going to hit enter to make sure that it does start on a new line so that it stays. We'll just put game over, man, because I don't really want to deal with having to enter a new line. So we'll say game over, man. Okay. I'm just going to make sure it's centered. Now, what I want you to do when you're in here is this, and this is kind of the key thing. Did I already do it? Okay. I want you to change this. By default, it's going to be static text. It's not what we want. We want it to be dynamic text. Okay. Now, the reason why we need it to be dynamic text is basically that means that we can change the code. We can change the text through code. If it's static text, it's basically going to treat it like it's an image, and we can't do anything with it. All right. Now, we also want to click on embed. All right. So I want you to click on embed. A little window is going to pop up, and then it's going to give you these options. And I'm just going to call this Comic Sans font. All right. And we'll just do all. Why not just do all? And then we'll hit OK. Yay. And now when you go to the library, you're going to see this thing. It's going to say Comic Sans font. Now, the reason why we need to embed this is that, again, we're going to be changing this with code, which means that when this game starts and we go to play it, I need to have that font available to change this text. Now it would work locally, but this way when I go to like export it and make it whatever, it's also going to export out the text so that I can change that text, and I have the whole font library. I have the font there available to make it. Because right now I might have wrote Game Over Man. So if I was going to write something, I would have GAMEOV. You know, I have these letters, but let's say I want to use a B. If I don't embed the font, I don't have that B. By embedding it, it makes the font part of the scene. So you just got to make sure to embed it. And you also got to make sure it's dynamic so that we can interact with it. And then right here, just call this Game Over Text. Okay? It's called Game Over Text. This is the same thing as the other stuff where basically it's an instance name so that we can target it when we need to. All right. Good. So basically what I'm going to have is that when I run into this, I'm going to have this say Game Over Man, which it already says it, but you'll see what I'm saying in a second. Okay, let's go ahead and open up the Actions panel again. And I'm just going to make sure I select this frame so I can see it. And we're going to hit the code snippets. All right. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to ActionScript because we're in ActionScript. Now we'll be in ActionScript till, well, kind of till the end of the class. I'm going to go to Event Handlers. And what I need to do is I need to test this on every event or every frame. Because every frame I need to test whether I'm hitting something or not. Which, again, is good. Now you could try to test it like every other frame or something like that. But then you're going to be slightly off, and there's a lot of things that come around to it. So, and there's a lot of different ways of doing this, but this is not the best, but it's also going to kind of be the simplest. So, we're just going to go ahead and do the enter frame event. Now, you remember too, I also did this falling function. I could have had like, the every frame function and then put everything in this one since this already has the enter frame. But just for cleanliness, I'm just going to go ahead and just make a new one for each thing that's separate. So I'm going to go ahead and double click on enter frame. And we're just going to go ahead and get rid of this. Okay. And now we have a enter frame. Now you're going to see it just says add event listener because it's just adding the event listener in general. Because it's just on every frame. It's not on any particular object. So that's totally fine. And it's just saying that we entered a new frame, which that would be a lot of saying entered frame. So we'll go ahead and get rid of that. And I'm just going to go ahead and we're going to call this pipe collision because I'm just going to test for pipe collision. And then we'll also name this function pipe collision. All right. So that way on every frame, it's going to run this function and this function is going to test whether we hit the pipes. So what we're going to say is we're going to do an if then else statement, but we're only doing ifs because we don't have anything that we want to do if isn't true. We want to do nothing if it isn't true. So this is a condition. So we're going to say if the player dot. So inside the player is again it's a built-in method in objects. We're going to say if player dot hit test. Oops, not text. Test object. Notice it turned blue. So if you type something out and it's showing up in a color of mine and not in yours, you did it wrong. Okay. And the thing we're going to test whether we hit is going to be pipe 01. Okay. Which is what we named those pipes earlier. Okay. Boom. Like that. Okay. So this is again a built-in method. And so basically the method has a thing where it tests if you hit an object. And you need to send it the thing that you want to test that you're hitting against. In this case, I want to test whether I hit pipe 1. So this is all inside of here. And then the whole thing is in here. So basically we're saying if what's in these parentheses is true, it's going to run what I put inside of these brackets. Okay. So we're going to say if the player hit test object pipe 1 is true. So if it hits pipe 1, I want it to do this. And I want it to do game over, over text. Is that what I named it? Game, oh, come on. Get out of the way. Game over, I'm trying to get this name right here. So game over text. Okay. Dot. And so this has a bunch of different attributes in it. And the attribute I want to change is the actual text itself. So the text of it, I want it to be game over man. Like that. Okay. Now, you might be like, oh, well, that was already there, and you would be right. I already have it on there. So what I need to do is I want to initially set it up, then I'm going to set it up to nothing. So what we're going to do is up on the very top here, after this, I'm just going to go ahead and right from the get-go, when it reads the rest of the variables, we're going to go ahead and just do game over text.text and set it equal to quotes, quotes. So basically, we're going to make it empty. So that game over text is always going to, or this object, this game over text object, is always there, but it's going to have nothing in it. So as soon as the game starts, it's going to change the text to just nothing. And then what we're going to do is we're going to say, if we hit something, it's going to put that in there. Okay? So that's the idea, is that basically it'll allow us to change the text at that moment. Okay, so I'm just going to hit delete, 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 and delete, delete, and just so it's a little bit easier to work with. I'm going to test that this one works first, and then if this works, I'm just going to copy and paste it for the other ones. So we'll hit Control Enter, and we'll test it. Okay. All right. So there seems to be an issue. So let's see what we did wrong. Actually, let's go to output and see. I don't see anything there. Okay. Game over text. That was, oops. That makes sense. Leave that. I don't know what's going on there. Okay. Game over text. Add event listener. Pipe collision. If player dot game over text. I'm gonna pause it and I'll figure it out and then I'll start it up again. All right, so I did change nothing and I just tested it again and then it worked. So I don't know. Maybe it just didn't start. I'm not sure what happened, but there was no errors. So you don't need to change anything. It should just work. I'm not sure what happened there. So anyway, you can see when I hit it, it does say game over, man. So it works. So what we're going to do is I'm just going to take this little bit of code here, this if statement, Control C, enter, Control V, enter, Control V, enter, Control V. I'm just doing one for each pipe, and I'm just going to back these up so that they're tabbed in better. And then I'm going to also tab this part in so you can tell that these each belong to the if above. And all we're going to do is we're going to do pipe 1, 2, 3, and 4. Okay, so now that's nice. So basically, if we hit any one of those pipes, it's going to go ahead and it's going to say, game over, man. All right. So now we've got that kind of going on. That's the thing that's happening. Now we need to do next is to basically add a scoring mechanic, which is basically going to be what we've already done. It's going to be this, but we're going to have that, remember that line that I showed earlier? It's going to be that line that we're going to put in there. And every time we hit it, we're just going to update the score. So it's more or less the same thing here, and then that should be it pretty much. So I'm going to do that in the next video just because I don't want these videos to get too long. So we'll see you in the next one. Doing good.